everybody, and welcome to another episode of the EFL Fantasy Podcast. My name is Jamie.
My name is Angus.
And my name is Dan.
And we are back to review game week 28 in Gaffr. The last game was today. We are recording on the Sunday night. Sunderland beat Middlesbrough earlier on this afternoon, which we'll talk about later. But before we do, how are you two guys going on? Good?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, not bad.
Fair enough. Well, I really hate how awkward I sound on introductions. I'm just going to go random things next week. I hate it. Right then, the usual then for the existing listeners and watchers, we'll go through our scores. We'll go through the couple of featured games from the weekend and then go through the other results. Questions from Twitter, and then we have got a new segment at the end. Should we get straight into it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Right, okay, so we'll go from the lowest scores first to the high. So I know that's definitely me because I had an absolute shit week. And I finished on 52 minus 4. Took out Jones, which was a good transfer. But I took out Lewis Baker because I had enough, the Stoke. And then they turned into Prime Barcelona. He got an assist and bonus. But I brought in Giles and Crooks. Now I did bench Crooks. It was mainly for next week. So my point scorers this week: Bogle and Egan got me 7 and 8. Bree 9. Matson and Giles just got me the 3 each. Johansson and goal 5. Chair emergency captain 2. Ndi vice captain 4. Brereton Diaz captain 4. Akpom 2. And then Victor 5. What a shit show. Honestly, I could not have chose 3 worst captains this week. So that's resulted in me into a red arrow. I'm now down to 210th. So if my season wasn't already over, it definitely is now. And we'll swiftly move on from my team because I don't want to talk about it anymore. And the next one is the pod team, Angus. You're the admin for this one.
We got 58 minus 4. So we had Johansson 5, which at least we got the goalkeeper decision right. We had Giles 3, Bree 9, Amatodzic 5, Matson 3, Chair 2, Sar captain, which was 10, Ndi vice captain 4, Zaruri 10, Akpom 2, Victor 5. We had bought Giles and Sar this week, and we came third this week in the competition. We had 54 net, obviously after the minus 4. The community team had 56, and guys on Gaffr had 57. And ironically enough, given how much we love him on this podcast, if we had just started Colin, who scored 10 points, we would have won this week.
We need to start upping our game in this. I'm going to blame you two.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I basically have no involvement. When I see you two planning the transfers and stuff, I normally just stay away. And then I'll just have a notification at the end saying, your captain votes.
You are the captain.
But I did actually have a say this week where I was convinced Zarori was a better pick than Rhodes.
Yeah.
I knew that game was going to get called off, so it was obvious, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not good. We are going to start kicking on with that. I'm going to bring my expert views into it. We're going to smash the community and the guys on Gaffr. Next team then is yours, Angus. I'll let you talk us through that one.
Yeah, so 67 minus 4. Although I guess I can call it a success, given that as part of my minus 4 this week, I bought Joao Ferreira from Watford, scored 13 points, and I bought him for Isaiah Jones, who was an unused substitute. So I think that's a roaring success there. I also bought and captained Sar, which was 10 points. Wilson in goal just for 1. Giles 3. Bree 9. Kamara 3. Amatodzic 5. Ndi vice captain 4. Chair 2. Victor 5. Stewart 12. So that was handy today. I also managed to bench Zaruri's 10 and Allen's 7.
Nice, good score. I've just realised looking at yours, like the reason I've done so shit is because idiots here sold Stewart for Brighton Diaz last week. So he didn't play and then blanked for me when I've captained him 2 weeks in a row. So
Well, I mean, Stewart did the smart thing from a Gaffr point of view today of getting his penalty saved and scoring the rebound. So he got more points.
I mean, if there's a loophole in the rules, why not exploit it?
Ross Stewart clearly plays the game. He clearly knew what to do.
Don't score penalties, it's crap. Score the rebounds.
Yeah.
And then Dan, your team is on the screen now. You had a good week.
Yeah, so I played Jeepers Keepers. I was always planning on playing it when it was the double, and there was a lot of talk about what strategy we were going to do, and in the end, I thought I'm just going to play it. I brought in Johansson for Amos. So Jeepers Keepers, I think it was all right. Wilson got 13, Johansson 19. Probably the bare minimum I wanted. I then captain Saar for 10, Vice, NDI. I had Giles for 3, Bree for 9, Amonhodvich for 5, Chair for 2, Diallo for 11, Akpom 2, Victor 5, and Stuart 12. So in the end, I'm up to 87th. That's a 45 place green arrow. So I think it's worked quite well because I think the average was probably 40 to 50. So I obviously had like players like Diallo and Stewart turn up, plus my Jeepers Keepers. So yeah, I think it's worked quite well.
Nice little rise as well. So it gets you in the hunt for a half decent finish going into the last set in a couple of weeks. So that's good. So what we'll do now then is we'll get into the featured games, and the first one is the lunchtime kickoff from Saturday, Coventry 2, Norwich 4. Anything worth noting from the lineups, Dan?
Yeah. So both teams were unchanged. Coventry, the main news was Panzo was surprisingly on the bench instead of starting. Wilson Esbrand, the left wing back who's signed from Man City on loan, was on the bench as well. But it's all about a crazy 45 minutes in the first half, which unfortunately I wasn't able to watch this game. But Norwich just started really well. I think they were 3 up, was in 20 minutes, something like that. And then just a bonkers game with Coventry coming back. Dowell got 2 goals and yeah, just really good attacking play. That I think it's more of a front 4 in the 4-2-3-1 with Sargent in behind. Pookie Hernandez on the left and Dow on the right. I'm going to pass on to Angus because he watched the game. So I only briefly watched the highlights.
I was about to say, Dan's nicked my notes about the formation, which I told him before we started.
I did pick that when he started going into it.
Because that was the clarity, obviously, where we were talking about Sargent's position last week. It was very much a 4-2-3-1 with Sargent as a 10. But what they were doing was really interesting because even with the midfield too, McLean was dropping sort of right back between the centre-backs almost. Sarah was then almost in between, and then Sargent was playing as a 10. And it did actually work where you would be worried almost that they would lose something in central midfield as a result of doing that. But because obviously McLean, it was more sort of going back to get the ball or whatever. They were still able almost to progress it through the lines. But they had their way with Coventry early on. Coventry's defence were just being pulled all over the place. I mean, Norwich didn't even have to... I say pulled. Norwich didn't even have to do that much to, disorganise the Coventry defence. They just seemed to be all over the place. The own goal was quite funny. Spent a while trying to work out who had scored, which player had scored the own goal. I think it went from a Grant Hanley goal to a Jake Bidwell own goal to a Michael Rose own goal. So that was fun. You had the Onel Hernandez goal where I thought he'd messed it up, and then he scores a goal which I'm not sure Ben Wilson will want to see back.
Cost me 3 points.
Yeah, Josh Sargent scored from a really good pullback from Pookie. And at that point, we were sort of setting, well, at least in a couple of chats I was in, like, this could be anything. Like, at that point, it looked like, it really could be anything. Like, almost pick a number, and then it turned on its head again. Alan with a, I'm going to call it a good finish. You could argue that he's not like sort of intended to do that, but I'm going to call it a good finish. And Casey Palmer, the goal for a while was being attributed to Victor, and we thought, oh, what a finish. And then on about the third replay, we were like, Victor hasn't actually scored this. It was Casey Palmer. Good finish from him, particularly to generate that sort of power and placement on a side foot, essentially. Was very impressive. It was a little bit boring after that. That was 3-2 after 26 minutes. And then there was only one other goal, and that was Kieran Dowell. But yeah, I think it was still entertaining, particularly that first half, because I'm not sure anyone had control for more than about 3 minutes. Second half, it settled down a little bit, but I did think, Coventry did well given how badly it could have gone after that initial sort of onslaught, and they were still in it second half as well. So I guess I have to give them credit in that regard.
I got in 10 minutes into the first half and missed 2 goals, obviously. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this is crazy. And even my daughter was with me, she's 4, and she even said, why aren't the goalkeepers saving them? They keep scoring loads of goals. And I was like, don't complain, this is brilliant. And then second half, it was more on in the background for me. I was eating and getting ready to go out for the Stoke game. So I didn't really see a lot from the second half. But the man on the screen for them on YouTube is Kieran Dowell. Since Wagner's come in, that's 2 league games. He's hauled in both. He's a top scoring player from this game week. Is it time, as Jaco says, to get on the Dowell train?
I'm thinking we can now start calling it a train.
It's not a carriage.
It's not sort of a carriage. It's not a bus. Like, I think we can start calling it a train now. We've always known with him the sort of quality he possesses, and it's been a case of particularly getting a run of games to show it. And I think the big problem for him is, I think it's a couple of times he's done it in the Championship, and then when they've got promoted, they basically treat him like he doesn't exist, and then he sort of comes back around again in the Championship. But this season it's taken a little while, but he played really well. He's not an out-and-out winger, obviously, but like, he gives them someone like another player who's capable of, who's comfortable playing in a wide area, who's familiar with playing in a wide area. And I think that's important for them. And
also Aaron's can go like push on forward, so he sort of drifts in anyway.
Yeah. So I think he looks to be playing really well. And with this formation that looks like it's going to sort of get more players in the attack in a more natural way as well, where we've complained about the 3 strikers all playing in the front 3, them all being in sort of more natural places, where you would expect them to be almost. I think that's going to help someone like him who has that creative element to his game as well.
I was looking forward to watching this game because from obviously the highlights in the Preston game, I noticed there was a lot of Norwich players in the opposition box. It seems to be the case here, but people will notice now, especially look at fixtures, they blank obviously in 29. They've got Burnley at home in 30, which obviously isn't ideal, but their run after is absolutely fantastic, and they also double in 33. So, we said let's have a look at them. Are we looking at bringing them players in now, would you say?
Yeah, obviously, we laughed about the fact I'd sold Pookie. I'm sure he's on the cards at the moment. I think this formation helps him as well, because there are times in other games where he can end up isolated or making runs in behind, and there's not necessarily the players to get the ball to him. I think in this system that helps him both in terms of more players being close to him and more players that can find him. Sargent, I think, is very much an option. Dowell, I can't recommend on El Hernandez. He'll get the odd attacking return, but he's basically the championship Adama Traore. He'll put the ball in the stands as many times as he'll actually get it in the box. Like, he'll beat someone and then he'll like trip over. It's incredible.
When I watched like the bits of him on Saturday, I'm like, he's exciting. When he gets the ball, you're like, go on, run at him, and he does. But like I say, he did it at the post in the second half, didn't he? But yeah, I don't think Ono Hernandez will be at the top of my list. But now I'm looking, you can't ignore Dowell's form. 2 goals in 2 weeks, you can't really ignore that. But Pukki's very interesting at the moment, as well as maybe even Sargent. But would you just let the Burnley game play out before you start considering it, or because I think they could take the game to Burnley? I think they might call. Would you call it a surprise?
Yeah, it would be a surprise if they like, particularly if they beat Burnley, even at home, it would be a surprise. I'd potentially want to let it play out. I mean, if you're still on Pukki, like, that's absolutely not a problem. Him playing Burnley, like, he could return in that game. But like, if you're looking to go in, I wouldn't necessarily feel great about going in for a game against Burnley.
You feel the same, Dan?
I don't know. I think Pukki, you can even sign him for Burnley, because I think this will be the sort of game they do quite well in.
What about defensively though? Because obviously the goals that they conceded, especially the first one that they conceded, the defending wasn't really great, was it? If we're honest, they cut back from the header, and then he's just unmarked to score. Would you look at him defensively? Max Aarons, we haven't. A lot of people started off with him at the beginning of the season. Nobody's probably really looked at him recently. Would you consider that, Angus, or is that still a no-go for you?
Not for me. I've noticed it in a couple of games, sort of the highlights recently or whatever, or sort of clips going around. But I wanted to take the opportunity in this game to have another look at him. And I think I said earlier in the season, and it was clear in this game, that particularly when it comes to his end product, you can sort of see what stopped clubs getting over the line in terms of actually signing him away from Norwich. He gets in those great positions. His end product isn't great.
It's not, is it?
And particularly if you're going to be that attacking a fullback, there's only so much value you carry, particularly to other teams, for getting into good attacking areas. If you can't do anything with the ball when you get there, as much as I loved him, I call it the Hector Bellerin problem, where he would get into these great attacking areas and everything, but you were lucky if he did something productive with the ball. And Max Aarons kind of has that problem. And on the other side, this has come back. I mean, he went off early in this game. Like, that seems to almost be a rotating spot there. So that's my issue with them defensively at the moment. Also, Krull looks like he could make an error at any moment.
And Dan, any final thoughts before we move on to the next game?
Probably not. Just to keep an eye on. I've got a couple of numbers for Norwich. 8 big chances created in the last 2 games and 5.5 XG, which is very, very good. So they're definitely, it's not like a massive fluke. They're creating really good chances and they're scoring them.
Well, if the XG says it's good, then it must be good. We'll move on to the next game. This one was one of the Friday night games. Burnley beating West Brom 2-1. Dan, anything noticeable from the lineups? Any major changes or anything like that?
Yeah, so for Burnley, Bastian, Teller and Barnes came in. Cork was suspended. I think he's got 10 yellow cards, the first player. So he's 2-game ban. Benson was dropped, and so was Jay Rodriguez, which was probably a bit surprising. That Jay Rod got benched over Barnes. For West Brom, Dean Garner came in for Phillips. I think Phillips has got an injury.
Yeah.
And West Brom took the lead. Set piece. Having watched West Brom against Luton the week before, their delivery was very good. Obviously, swift, whipping them in, and you've got Furlong. You've also got Luke Cashlew. They're quite a big physical side, and we definitely saw earlier on in the start of the season when Sheffield United basically bullied Burnley from set pieces. So I wasn't overly surprised West Brom scored from a set piece. But as the game wore on, especially in the second half, I think we saw just how good the depth of this Burnley side is, because they were able to bring on Jay Rodriguez and Benson on the 63rd minute. And then Scott Twine, who probably came with the most fanfare of any of their signings, especially with what he was doing in MK Dons. I think he came on in the first game, hit the post with a free kick, and then he's hardly played since then. But they won a free kick, and we were in the chat, and I said he's going to score here because he's scored more goals, free kicks than Ward-Prowse recently in the last few years. So I wasn't surprised, and he scored. And this is a player who's hardly played, and now he's on the bench, and you're thinking he could easily come into this side and make an impact. And they're still signing players. They signed another defender who we think is going to come straight into the team. Ekdal, Swedish centre back, obviously with Harwood Bellis out injured. You think him and Bayer would play at centre point backs at some point. So yeah, the main thing I took away from this game was Burnley played a very good team in West Brom who are high on confidence, and just their squad depth, and won them the game. I don't know if you've got anything else, Angus.
Well, before you do, Angus, we obviously said last week we weren't going to talk about Burnley and West Brom because that's all we spoke about over the last few weeks. But there's a man on the screen now, Scott Twine, who Dan's mentioned there, obviously come on and scored the free kick. What I found interesting, he's 7.6 million, but this must show how many dead teams there are because he was very popular at the beginning of the season. He is 17.5% owned, which I thought was quite interesting when I saw it. But yeah, you wanted to speak about Twine, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I think it's just one of those great moments, isn't it? Like, he's had these horrible injury issues, almost immediately. And he's been out, and then he's been in the squad for a few games. He's had to wait, and company had talked about wanting to sort of be sure before getting him involved. And he comes on, and particularly for someone who's a set piece specialist, to get a free kick right on the edge. I'm not sure it was a free kick, but that's another matter entirely. And particularly because that's one of those positions where you often think that might be too close.
Too close to get it over the wall
and
under.
And the way he manages to get it up and over and like right into the far corner, it's just like it's just one of those sort of great moments where and you could see in the moment and then after the game just how happy the rest of the players, staff, everyone were for him. He was almost lost for words after the game. He didn't quite know what to say. And it's just one of those. He could, we've spoken about the set pieces and everything, but it's just another player in that attacking area for Burnley. It might create a bit of an issue if you already own one of the wide players, but from their point of view, to just have someone like that as another option.
I think he's more of a 10 though, Angus. So it might be
Brown in those attacking areas where, because they've used Teller in field, they've used Goodmanson in field, so there's still going to be that sort of element of even there, so many players for only 3 spots.
So basically, what you're saying is creating more of a ball ache to own Burnley assets, isn't it? Because they've got that many options.
Yes, I say that as a not at all concerned and a sorority owner.
Yeah, that's the problem. They're all great options, but they all can't play, can they? So, yeah, I think that's worth keeping an eye on it. But yeah, like you say, it's nice to see him come in, get the winner in a big game like that as well, because I think that just finally probably cemented some Burnley's fans' thoughts of like, you know what, actually, we are going to go up. Because if they'd lost that, I'm not saying West Brom would go and catch them, but it give West Brom belief where now I think Burnley are just gone. Clear.
What's this thing on Twitter the last couple of days about the parachute payment? It's done my head in.
Yeah.
I know it's done your head in as well.
I mean, let's be real here. Without even knowing how much they've spent on this latest centre back, they haven't even spent 50% of the money they made in player sales in the summer.
Yeah, but Angus, it's not fair. You're not allowed to sell all your players for a lot of money and then we spend half of it and create a really good young side. You're not allowed to do that. It's not fair on the rest.
No.
So every club from now on, while parachute payments are along, one club a season will be labelled Parachute FC. It's so stupid. They've done it. Like if I was a Burnley fan, I'd be over the moon. I honestly would be over the moon because they've transformed the whole club. They're going to go up. They'll take the Premier League not by storm, but by surprise.
Yeah.
They'll play good football. They'll probably add to that squad as well. Like, it's exciting times to be a Burnley fan, I think.
I saw someone link, because there's been this talk about Antonio Conte leaving Tottenham at the end of the season. I saw someone today link Tottenham should go after Vincent Kompany, and that didn't seem stupid to me, which is a statement of how well they've done this season.
Yeah, because a big club like Tottenham normally a championship manager, you
hear that and you're immediately like, no, that's ridiculous. Stop being stupid. I know that it's Vincent Kompany, so it's different, but even so, that what they've shown so far this season, I still think it wouldn't necessarily be a good idea, but I didn't immediately think that's ridiculous, which shows how well they've done already this season.
I think there's a lesson to be learned from Burnley, from how to do it properly if you get relegated. If you look at the Premier League now, I don't want to get too much into Premier League, but you've got Southampton, Everton, maybe not West Ham, but if those clubs come down, you'd think they'd have to transform their club, especially Everton. They're showing you how to do it. And you think when you came down, Jamie, I'm not going to mean to rub it in, but you signed established championship players, didn't you?
Yeah.
I remember the season you done it. You must have spent probably double what Burnley have, right?
Yeah, it's easy to say
Tom
but
Ince
at that time I thought, that team on paper, it was by far the best in the league. But then you players like Tom Ince, who, they've done well in the championship before, but they haven't got that attitude. Burnley have gone for a young profile. Probably unknown, I didn't know who Zarori was. And, some of the players hadn't got a clue who they were. And we did not know what to expect off Burnley. Did remember that first game against Huddersfield?
Yeah.
And then oh wow. Yeah.
But it's not that, because they've signed young players, they've got sell-on value now.
Yeah, exactly.
So you think Zahore's 15, 20 million at least now?
Yeah, and then obviously they haven't used all the money that they've made, so they're in a good financial position. Yeah, fair play to Burnley. But we'll move on then to the next game. This is the one I had the pleasure of watching.
Go on then, Jamie, take it away.
Just for the viewers and listeners, it wasn't me who requested to put this in. If I'm honest, I probably wouldn't have had it in the featured games, even if it was brilliant. But I still, obviously, Stoke assets probably still aren't relevant at the moment.
Decent double.
What are you on about? Tripling up right away.
Yeah, I'm not giving the secrets away. I'm still trying to claw my way back up, Angus. I'm going to do that on my own. It's not like I've already done it before and it went badly.
God, yeah.
Yeah, but it was... You noticed, Angus, you asked for this. Josh Lawrence on the screen at the moment with a picture of his heat map from the game, and he was absolutely everywhere, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think that's the thing where, unfortunately for Stoke, that was one of the sort of additions in the summer where we were like, yeah, good move, really good move.
Yeah.
Then and he just hasn't been available as much as you would have wanted. But he's not necessarily, particularly if we're talking about Gaffr, he's not necessarily a great asset sort of on his own. But it's what he does for the players around him that's so important.
I agree.
I think that's the big thing with him is he makes life so much better for the players around him. The work he gets through, he does. It's not like he's super conservative when he gets the ball, but he knows what he can and can't do. That's very clear with him. But even last year at Reading, you could see he was trying to add more of an attacking element to his game, and he doesn't look uncomfortable going forward. But he also recognises that a lot of the time, the best thing to do is to give the ball to the attacking players to get them in positions. But he's one of these players that could make a real difference if he can just stay fit for a stretch. And I just think then we're not necessarily going to be bigging up Stoke assets, but he's the sort of player that could make some of those other players more of an asset.
Yeah, I agree. He did one pass, and I'm not kidding, I had to rub my eyes. I thought it was Kevin De Bruyne on the pitch. No, honestly, the pass looked like he only had that. The viewers can't see me, but like a little gap where he could have put it, and he did. It was fantastic. But yeah, I'm not going to say go get Stoke assets in. We do have a double in 33, but we've got the FA Cup this weekend, and then a tough trip away to Dan's Luton.
But let's play. You always beat us. Let's be honest. Since we come back, I think we've only won once.
Yeah, but you absolutely battered us this season. We just scored them many goals, and then you absolutely battered us all game. But it might, this could be the turning point. And not as in the turning point where they're going to be amazing, but over the last few weeks it's been horrific, and I really did fear for relegation. But Reading didn't really offer anything I was quite surprised by. It was nice of Tom Ince to play exactly like how he did for us, where he was invisible.
I'm assuming he got grounded this weekend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that performance was shocking. But you're looking at our fixtures now, though. Luton away in 30 because we're blank in 29. Then we've got Hull and Huddersfield back-to-back home games. And then the double is Blackpool away and Swansea away. So it's not too bad.
Decent fixtures.
Yeah, I think it'll be a big week in the transfer window because obviously Fossu's been recalled and then sent to Rotherham. Delap obviously went to Preston, and Harry Clark got recalled and he's gone to Ipswich. So I think a keeper will come in this week and maybe one or two more signings. We'll see. Yeah, but I thought Josh Lawrence superb and it was worth just talking about briefly. Next game,
and one last thing.
Yeah.
Perfect that Dwight Gale's first goal was a shot hitting him.
I can't believe I haven't mentioned that. You should have seen the reception he got, because he got subbed straight after the goal. Like they were planning on bringing, I think Emre Tezgah come on for him, but the crowd just erupted. It was brilliant. It was actually nice. I actually enjoyed being at a Stoke game for the first time in a very, very long time. But yeah, Dwight Gale's going to go on an absolute hot streak now. So.
Oh no, and we play next.
Yeah. You couldn't write it, could you, Dan? But yeah,
got back that.
Derby.
Stoke win, Gale to score.
Right, let's get on to your team then, Dan. You went to Wigan and won 2-0.
Yeah. So Wigan made a few changes. We've played them. This was our third time in 2 weeks we played them because we got them in the FA Cup. But because some of their players weren't signed for the first game of the FA Cup, they weren't allowed to play the replay. So they made 3 changes. Aziz, Fletcher and Teehee came in for Naylor, Cousins and Lang. Luton's lineup was a bit of a surprise. We had Osho, Watson and Cornick came in for Doughty, Campbell and Morris. Obviously Morris we knew had an injury doubt, so I'm not surprised he was missing. To be honest, I watched the game back. Comfortable win, just professional away performance. Goal and assist from Cornick. Another goal from Adebayo. That's 3 in a week, 3 in 3 games. The main thing I wanted to tell about was how the strikers are all in form, and I think Jamie's just got the the tweet
I've
on.
got the tweet on from We Are Luton Town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is on there, Don.
So yeah, it's just showing that it's not in the last 6 games, but in the last 6 games each striker has played, and you're seeing that we're scoring a lot more goals, and the strikers are becoming quite pivotal in what we do. I think at the start of the season there was like a lot of interest with Luton when they signed Woodrow and Morris, and now they're all starting to play well. They're swapping and changing, which isn't ideal. I still think Morris will be first choice, but it just takes the pressure off the players, especially last year. Adebayo was asked to do so much that he was getting niggly injuries towards the end. We don't need to do that now, and yeah, we're just really good going forward at the minute. But yeah, I think Angus wants to talk some more.
Just before Angus talks about Edwards,
Yeah.
Obviously Bree is a point scoring machine in Gaffr, so
Yeah.
he should be locked into your team. You've just mentioned there Carlton Morris is probably your first striker. He missed out due to a minor injury, but you know, who would you look at from the other ones there though? Because me looking at that graphic, I'm thinking, who would I pick if I was going to go another one?
I'm not sure you can go enough. I think Morris and Adebayo are our first choice, but we've definitely seen, and even with Morris missing out now, the Cornick's coming in scoring. Even Woodrow, who's been out for quite a while with injuries, come back and getting goals. They're all different strikers, especially Cornick and Woodrow. Woodrow can play 10. Cornick's that threatening behind. I think I'd just go Morris. I wouldn't go any of the others. I know we mentioned before about how the wing backs are getting a lot more forwards. Bree's locked in at right wing back unless he gets sold. And it looks like Bell is first choice at left back, wing back. I've seen a couple of people with the double up, and we've had 10 clean sheets now this season, so we're not terrible defensively. But I think they're the main two, Bree and Morris, I think.
Okay. And Angus, you're particularly impressed with Edwards, aren't you, since he took over?
Yeah, I think it's easy to forget as well, when he came in, Luton, at least in terms of results, weren't in a good run of form. For the point of comparison, because Edwards has been in charge for 6 league games now, I looked at the last 6 league games of Nathan Jones's tenure. They didn't win a game. Rob Edwards has won 4 of his first 6. So, you know, it's easy to forget that like they were in a bad run of form, you know, before he came in. He's turned them around. He's got them playing better. You know, I think the first game was just bad. I think it was a defeat to Middlesbrough. And I think that there were a couple of sort of murmurs at that point because it was sort of the first game. I think it was the first game back after the World Cup, and it really wasn't very good.
It wasn't good, Angus. It was quite level, and then Amari Bell got sent off, and then it was all Middlesbrough. It wasn't terrible.
There's always
but it
an
wasn't.
excuse, isn't there, Angus?
Yeah. I mean, you know, let's ignore the fact they had like 0.4 XG and 35% possession, and you know.
Yeah, but
I can reel off the stats about how bad it was. I have looked into this.
Was it before he got sent off?
Well, given that it was 0.4 XG for the whole game, it can't have been great before he got sent off.
But that was Middlesbrough on that.
And Middlesbrough had, you know, almost 2 XG. So, you know.
But all that happened when Bell was off. Anyway, it don't matter.
Yeah. The big thing, they won 3. I think they were one of the only teams to win all 3 games over the Christmas period, which obviously when you're playing quick succession and the fact, I think, you know, lots of teams have injuries, but when you come into a team new as a manager and you're having to negotiate players coming in and out of the team with injuries, the fact that he's managed to turn the results around and everything, in the midst of that while getting used to a new squad. Thankfully for him, I guess he didn't need to change the formation. Really, he wanted to do basically the same thing, but he's just built on top of what Nathan Jones did, and he's improved the results, which is obviously big. And I just thought, given that he's now had 6 league games in, it was worth just sort of highlighting the improvement.
So Luton, just looking at Luton's fixtures now, obviously got us at home, Coventry away, Preston away, Burnley at home. You're due to have a double in 34 if everything goes accordingly with the FA Cup, isn't it? There's a chance that may not happen though, isn't there?
We're at home to Grimsby.
And if Luton win, then the 34 double disappears.
Yeah, that's no good, is it? I hope you get battered, Dan. Cod Army. I think they're the Cod Army anyway. I know
Ain't that Fleetwood, is it?
I don't know. I know it's a fishing area.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go with it. Right. Okay. Next one then. Watford drew at home to Rotherham 1-1, which took us by surprise. But I think you just wanted to talk about the guy you brought in, Angus, so we'll come to you first. We've got technical issues. We still haven't paid for Google Meets Pro or whatever. We'll be back with you in just a second. Right, and we're back. I've explained to the viewers why it went off. I forgot, and we haven't paid for premium yet because we're tight. But yeah, Angus, I don't know if it cut off when I said, but we know you've only requested Joao Ferreira to be on here because you brought him in this week.
I mean, yeah, isn't that how it works? Yeah, I mean, it was quite convenient for me because when Bilic was talking about Ngakia picking up an injury, he basically said that Ferreira was going to come into the team, which particularly with them starting against Rotherham, him being 5.5, I thought, why not? They play in 29. I thought, this is all setting up perfectly to go in. By all accounts, in his initial impressions and previously, he's quite attacking fullback. So I thought, well, attacking fullback against Rotherham sounds good to me. From his heat map, if you do look at it, you can see that he was getting high quite regularly. And his goal came from pushing up into the Rotherham half, winning the ball back, and then driving forward and just having a shot. I mean, felt like maybe the keeper could have done slightly better, but it was a good effort. And you would think that he's going to stay in the team for at least a few games, and he might stay in the team like longer term as well, because obviously they've just brought him in. They probably haven't brought him in to be the backup. They might not have anticipated bringing him into the starting lineup so quickly, but I guess the plan would be for him to stay there. So it's a potential positive there and potential asset in the fullback of a team like Watford at 5.5.
Yeah, I think the key thing there, like you said as well, Watford obviously play Middlesbrough in game week 29, so one of the 6 teams are actually playing in that week. So I mean, I'd say fair play. You went on it early. It's paid off, but that's what fantasy football's about, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, obviously it sort of it swings both ways as well. In terms of, I'd sort of held Kamara through. I was like, oh great, he's back, and he was on the bench. So it can go both ways. Interestingly, on him, he came on at half time, and again, because I was sort of looking into it, because from the way it sounded, there was impact on the rest of the team, with the young lad who was playing ahead of him, and so that was the reason to change it. And if you look at Sarr's heat map, he was clearly doing quite a lot of work to help. I think it was Morris back there, and with Kamara coming on, it just helped put. Not only because obviously Kamara will get forward, but it helped push Sarr further forward as well. So I think for those who, there may be a few out there like me that held him through or are looking at potential options, I would assume he'll come back into the team, not only because he's the best option they have, but because, Bilic clearly recognised the need or the impact it would have on Sarr, freeing him up to get further up the pitch. And if you look at the chances he was involved in the game, most of them came in the second half when he was able to push that bit higher and not have to help as much sort of defensively.
Okay, interesting. Dan, anything you'd like to add on Watford?
Not so much Watford. I wanted to talk about Rotherham.
By all means, talk about Rotherham.
They signed Fosu from Brentford, obviously on loan at Stoke. And this meant that Washington dropped out of the lineup, and Ogbene, who was playing on the wing in the previous game, went up front. They continued with the back four. Angus spoke about the back four and the new signings of Morrison and I can't remember the left back from Leeds, Helder. So I know they got a bit lucky with the number of times Watford hit the woodwork during this game, but that's another really good point for Rotherham, and that's 4 points in 2 games in a division where the points at the bottom has drastically dropped off to where you might only need a point per game, which is 46 points. So every draw down at the bottom is massive, and a win is huge. So yeah, I think we're now starting to see what Taylor's side is about. I think he was trying to keep too much of what Warren had brought in with the 5 at the back, but now he's gone. I think he's just thought, well, we're losing anyway. We might as well just go to how I want to play. So still got Barlaser, still got Bene. If they can keep both of them, they've got a chance of staying up. My guess is they lose 1 probably.
Yeah, I agree. Right then, the last of the featured games. This was today's game. Sunderland beat Middlesbrough 2-0. Joao and Stewart on the score sheets. Anything from the lineups, Dan, that's worth noting?
Yeah, so Bath and Elise came in at left back, who I was quite impressed with first half. I think he's normally a centre back who was signed by West Ham during the summer, but has played left back. And for Boro, Lenihan came back in at centre back. They were continuing with that front 4 of McGree, Force on the right, Crook still up front with Akpon in behind. And I was just really impressed with Sunderland. When you consider how well Boro had done, I think they'd only lost to Burnley in a long time. Diallo caused a lot of problems for Boro. He was playing in the 10 behind, obviously Stuart Roberts was on the right, Clark was on the left, and just the passing and the movement, obviously quite a young side, Sunderland, and at times Boro really struggled. Diallo missed a great chance to put them 1-0 up where Stefan passed in the ball. I'm not joking. They could have been 3-0 up by half time, and I don't think Boro could really moan. I was a bit disappointed with Boro. I think they didn't have enough, weren't mobile enough up front. Obviously, they've got Crooks up there, and it's all right if you can get it up to Crooks and get the players in around him, but there's not a lot of pace up front. Obviously, no Archer. Jones just doesn't seem in favour at the minute, and he's got blistering pace. And Sunderland finally did score with Stewart through 1-on-1 and changed the game. I think it was just in the penalty box. Obviously won the penalty and then missed the penalty and then scored the rebound. And because of this, Fry got sent off as he didn't attempt to play the ball. And then the second goal was Diallo. We've seen him do this a number of times, cut in from the left and shoot. And Hackney, who I thought done quite well for Boro throughout the game, maybe showed his bit of inexperience, got shown down the line. But as a Diallo owner, I was quite impressed because this is one of the differentials in my team, and for him to get 11 points, that along with the keepers I played, turned it into a good game week, I think.
Yeah, I only watched the first half and then I went to cricket practice, so I missed the goals. But first half, I was impressed by Sunderland as well.
Yeah.
Same with you on Middlesbrough. Didn't excite me at all. I wasn't convinced they were going to score from watching that 45 minutes. But Sunderland, some of the phases of passing that they did throughout that first half was really good, and it'd have been really nice if one of the goals had come off from them. I think there was one where I'm trying to think who had it at the back, where Stewart was offside.
Yeah.
And then there's also as well Stefan goal. He nearly gave a goal away early on with his pass back out, and then he parries that one where Stewart's technically offside. But yeah, I think from what I watched first half, it was a fair result. Angus, you watched all the game as well, didn't you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Middlesbrough were better second half. Obviously, they were very disappointing first half. A lot of what they do is based on sort of gaining and maintaining control, and they didn't have that at any point. I think it's interesting with the attack because Crooks playing as that centre forward with Akpom in behind has obviously worked for them in the last few games. It really didn't work in this game. And I think the rest of it probably would have been fine if they just had a better focal point, which I think, it took till after the red card, I think, where they took Crooks off and pushed Akpom sort of to centre forward, and then eventually brought Archer on for it to change. I would expect potentially to see a change very quickly up front for them, because I thought Fours on the right was perfectly good. I thought he was probably their most threatening player. He was an actual outlet for them. Forced a good save out of Patterson in the first half. McGree on the left, he's fine. He's been rotating with Watmore. I would say for those who are hoping to get Jones points, the fact that they made a change on the right wing and brought on Duncan Watmore and left Isaiah Jones on the bench should concern you if you're expecting to see him play.
I think it's got to the point now, Anthony, where you've got to. I know they've got a game in 29, so people might have been holding and hoping he comes back in the team, but surely.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well, if you've held him this long, you might as well leave him in there for 29, unless you are amazingly set and you already have 11 other players and whatever. You might as well leave him there because, he might come off the bench finally. Like, it's almost like he is technically involved in a game, so you might as well leave him there. But after that, yeah, I'd be getting rid. But yeah, I think that they were unimpressed. The one person, particularly in the second half, when they tried to take more control of the game, thought Hackney in midfield. He's not going to be a Gaffr asset, but I thought he was really good in there. Unfortunately for him, he screws up on the second goal in terms of not showing Diallo down the line, but he did really well in the game. It's quite funny when you look at the midfield, because you've got him as a young player and Howson as an old player as the midfield too. Yeah, the only other thing from a Middlesbrough point of view is I'd criticise Dale Fry. If you're going to be pulling back Ross Stewart for that long, bring him down before he gets to the penalty area.
Yeah, if you're going to you're taking the red.
He'd been pulling him back for about 15 yards. Like, make sure like, it was touch and go whether it was in the area, but I think by the time Stewart went down, his foot was on the line, which means he's in the area. If you're going to pull him back and bring him down, just do it before he reaches the penalty area.
Yeah, I think that's what Carrick would want as well. And I think the best thing Carrick could do really is, I think it's unfair to keep Isaiah Jones out of the squad, because I'm biased and I think he's fantastic. We need a right back, a right wing back. I think he should just come out and no, Dan, no.
Jamie called it first.
Yeah, I shotgunned him. I will go pick him up and bring him back down. Don't worry about
Jones
that.
will look good on our bench behind Bree.
But yeah, anything else to add on either Sunderland or Middlesbrough before we move on?
Sunderland lucky not to concede a penalty late on. Akpom bundled over. It was clumsy by Bailey Wright, and I think they were a little bit fortunate there. And I guess on the other side, Ross Stewart, genius, given that you don't lose points for missing a penalty, misses the penalty, which would only get you 3 points in Gaffr, scores the rebound, which gets you 5 points in Gaffr. So he's clearly just a genius.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about that in some chats, especially the Planet FPL Slack. Obviously, we had rule a couple of seasons ago where forwards got -2 for yellow cards, which I moaned about every single week. That's gone. Do you think it may work if I moan about this rule that Gaffr might listen to this and say, "Yeah, Jamie's got a point here. We'll remove this rule."
I tried to campaign for minus points for this and for own goals, for missed penalties and own goals, and I was unsuccessful. So I think what we're learning here is that it has to be you to complain for change to happen.
Well, Sean, Joe, I know you're listening. You know what to do. No, I really do think you should. I don't know. I can see why they don't do it because they're trying to make it a lot of fun, so you score more points than you would in like FPL. Obviously, when I don't want to say casual players, but I will say it anyway. Casual players look at the teams and they scored a lot of points. They enjoy it more, so I do get that. But it's really annoying, especially me as a Stuart non-owner. Like, it's an absolute joke. So I want that removing straight away. Not next season, I want it removing now. Dan, are you in agreement? Do you think that should be changed?
I think it should be changed. I had it earlier on in the season with Pookie on my triple. And he'd already scored 2, and then he obviously took the penalty and missed. But he still ended up with bonus and things. I think it needs minus points for pen misses and own goals, especially pen misses. The reason why you pick penalty takers because of the chance of scoring, there has to be a bit of jeopardy in it, I think.
I agree. Right, let's move on then. The other results. Preston beat Birmingham away 2-1. Sheffield United beat Hull at home 1-0. Cardiff lost at home to Millwall 1-0. QPR and Swansea drew 1-1. So did Bristol City and Blackburn. That's definitely worth talking about. And Blackpool and Huddersfield was postponed due to a frozen pitch. Anything you'd like to pick on from any of them 5 games?
I'll go with the Sheffield United Hull game. Goal for Daniel Jebison, who I thought who had sort of earned those minutes, and took the goal well. There was a lot of debate about whether it was an NDI assist. We've got a question on that, so I won't go into it now. Bogle looks like he's going to be in the team for a few weeks now, with Baldock and Stevens likely out for a few weeks. So Lowe on the other side should be stay in the team now. And I'd also like to celebrate the fact that Ollie McBurney, chief antagonizer, is back.
I only saw that this morning,
Yeah, managed to wind up Benjamin Tete to the point that he'd headbutted him and got sent off. It was so stupid, but I just love the fact that Ollie McBurney, chief antagonizer, is back.
I do love that. I think it's brilliant. Blackburn obviously drawing for the first time this season is absolutely crazy. I think also as well you see Cardiff losing to Millwall at home, which it's not a surprise, but it just shows our worries about Cardiff are still there. And I'm also starting to worry about Birmingham as well. They seem to be dropping like a stone at the moment. They could do with a few decent results in the near future.
5 losses in a row.
Yeah,
for Birmingham.
They really could do with a win coming in the next few weeks. But I think that's about it then, and we'll go.
Jamal Lowe goal. Just to mention, Jamal Lowe scored for QPR.
Yes, so he's definitely worth keeping an eye on. Did he? I think I saw. Did he come on?
He started.
He started sort of in one of the attacking positions, but off Dykes.
Off Dykes. Interesting. Right then, Ask the Experts is back. So these are the Twitter questions. I will start then. I'll come to you first, Angus. Mark Dorney has asked, he has 8 players for game week 29, but only 1 doubler. No, sorry, 2 doublers for 33, he replied at the bottom. Do I go to 9 players for next week or roll to start building for game week 33? So he's basically got 8 players in 29 already playing. He's got 2 doublers in his squad who are going to double in 33. What would you advise to do? Add an extra one for 29 or start building for 33?
I think it depends on the players you've got. Because I said to someone, I think today, where for me, not to make everyone have the same team, but the main players I've been looking at for 29 are Giles, Chair, Sar, and Victor.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't have any of them, I'd probably be looking at that. You don't have to, but that's probably where I'd be looking. Beyond that, if you would rather sort of look ahead to 33 and just say, I've got 8, I'm going to be on 8 without a hit, that sort of thing, and roll and look ahead, I don't think that's a problem. I think 8 or more is what, I don't know if anyone's actually asked it. 8 or more is what I'd be aiming for this week anyway in terms of players. So I think you're absolutely fine there. You're at a point where if you want to look ahead to 33, go for it.
Dan, this is an interesting topic actually, so I'm going to come to you on this question as well. What are your thoughts on it?
So I currently have, I've got 8, but one is Jones,
So
and yeah, but I've got basically. So like Angus, so I've got the key players. I might use my free transfer to get 8, and then I'll probably just leave it as that because the players who I'm going to bring in on, I'm not going to captain or anything. I don't think so.
See,
8. I think
I'm on
8.
7, but I haven't got Saw, and I swore I was never touching that club again. So I'm just going to go out. But one of my 7 is Sam Field, by the way. So I'm just getting appearance points. But I think you're right, what you both said, get them key players in. And I wouldn't be worrying about bringing crap in like Sam Field, something like that. I just don't think it's worth it. If you've already got 8, I think you're in a good position compared to what some people may be in. I'd just go with that. I wouldn't start building for 33. Next question, FPL frustration. Dan, I'll come to you first. What are your thoughts on only going into this game week with 9 players, only 9, and who are the main captain and vice candidates? You would have probably covered this earlier in the pod. Cheers, gents. So it's kind of going back to what you kind of just said there, isn't it? But if you had to say 2 or 3 captain options for this week, then who would they be?
Saar, Chair, Victor, Akpom. I think that's the 4 main ones.
Angus?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, brilliant. FPL Red Arrow was asked, would you buy Crooks or Riley, Angus?
I assume that's Riley McGree.
I imagine so, yeah. He has just put Riley. He's probably he might be his mate and he's on first term basis. I don't know.
I'm going to say McGree, but I think you've picked the 2 that are most likely to not play the game, which is the slight concern there. But I'll say McGree.
Dan, you were nodding your head, so I assume you agree.
Yeah, I just think Archer's just there, and eventually he's going to start. I know, Jamie, you've brought in Crooks, but
I'll be honest, I didn't buy him in just because he's playing up front. I was hoping when Archer come in, he may drop back into midfield, which I don't think's that much of a negative thing. But no, Malk, he's probably not going to play now, so I'll be down to 6. So yeah. Right, next question. I'm just going to you first. Skiel78 has asked, Any chance Blackpool v Huddersfield gets rearranged for 31st or the 1st of Feb to give Huddersfield a double game week in 29, or is that likely to be too short notice or too many games in a short space of time? Cheers for all the help.
I mean, if you ignore the fantasy football element of it and the fact that we love double game weeks, there's no need for them to put it there. Absolutely none. Only one of them plays in the FA Cup at the weekend, but one of them does play in the FA Cup. They can absolutely put it in further down the line. That's not a problem. And I'm also skeptical that the EFL would want to put games on, where possible, where they can avoid it, on the same day as the League Cup semi-finals, given that is, officially the EFL Cup.
Yeah.
Would they really want to put on a game that clashes with that product when they don't have to?
So also deadline day, so the clubs might not want it either.
Yeah, so highly unlikely, let's say.
Yeah.
Right, Dan, FPL Frog. Got 10 players, one is Jones for game week 29, but thinking of rolling is midfield and forwards fully stocked, and I don't want any other defenders playing besides BNC and already have 3 Coventry. Is that mad or sensible?
Sensible.
Yeah,
like we said, 8's fine. I'll be going in with 8.
And I'll come back to you on this one, Dan, because the last one's probably going to be more aimed at Angus. James has asked where in DI's assist points and standard 4 bonus.
Right, it wasn't an assist. It wasn't. He's passed it. It's hit the whole defender and it's gone to Jefferson.
Yeah,
it's not an assist.
No bonus, so I think that screwed everybody over who had some kind of armband on him this week. And then
I had the vice on him, so it's screwed me over.
Right, last question, Angus, and it's from. He's gonna have to DM me and tell me how to pronounce his name. Pateri Anunen. That's probably nowhere near. Apologies.
It's better than last week, I think.
Was it? I can't remember what I tried last week. Excuse me. Right, Angus. How many games are there missing from Gaffr fixtures at the time you make this recording? If there are, which ones? Planning for possible overall game week 30 in fixtures the key in his decision. So basically, how many more have got to be scheduled in?
2? 4 now, because you've got Blackpool, Huddersfield as well.
Yeah. So there's 4 games to go in.
Yeah. So there's 3, obviously, from the FA Cup postponements that are still to be rearranged. Luton, Cardiff, West Brom, Wigan, and Preston, Coventry. And then, obviously, now Blackpool, Huddersfield as well.
And then, I don't know if you've worked out yet about how many potential more could get called off due to the next round of the FA Cup if Championship teams progress. So we know Luton.
That should be fine. The only one that can be called off is Luton Millwall
because
in
that's the midweek,
and that's because it got put into the midweek, which is where the next round of the FA Cup would be. So that's the only
weekend's absolutely fine. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you put under that affects his decision to use 1 or 2 free transfers at 29. And then the cheeky bug has asked another question. Will there be blanks because of FA Cup? If yes, when, where and how to estimate the affected teams? I've just basically asked that without realising he asked this. So we know now then which games have got to get back in. We obviously don't know what game week they're going in because some have gone into 33, some have gone into 35, is it, Angus?
Yeah. So a couple have gone into 35.
So it's just a wait and see on them. And then that wraps up all the questions and we'll go into our last segment. So obviously we did reach out to our audience and just see what they would want us to do. Our predictions that we used to do seem to be quite popular. But we wanted to do something where I could keep tabs on the scores and I couldn't be asked doing 12 games worth of scores. So we have condensed it down and we are going with predict an essential pick. So that's probably best captain options for the week, who we think will score the most. A differential pick, which we haven't planned any of this, so we don't actually know the full rules. But shall we say differential below 10% owned? Or would you say that's quite high?
I don't know. I think ownership's hard on this game because it's massively out of sync.
And it's lower than you think, I think, with a lot of players. So I'd say, because you can be, for example, goalkeepers, there are only 4 goalkeepers that are owned by over 10% of teams. So maybe under 5%.
Right, okay, let's make it interesting. 5%. And then we've got a flop. So a highly owned player who we think will do absolutely nothing in the upcoming week. Shall we put that down to a percentage, or how shall we do that? We should probably have planned this before we started recording. How shall we do that one, the flop?
Just a popular pick.
Popular.
So we'll say what is it? The first screen. So in terms of ownership. So
do points scored so far.
Points scored. What top 10?
Yeah, on the main
screen. If you go on the transfers, the first screen of players.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right then. So those on YouTube can see we've got the standings. We're all on 0 points, and then the table is blank because we obviously haven't done our predictions yet. Each week, what I'll do is I'll show the results from the previous week. That'll be much easier. So this week we'll go in alphabetical order. So Angus gets first pick. We can't obviously have who Angus has had. We've all got to have different players.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Going forward, it'll be the person who's bottom will get first pick to make it interesting. So, essential pick, Angus. Who is your essential pick for this week? I'll go get the fixtures up and the transfers in a minute. Just so
The great thing this week is there's only 3 games. You've only got 6 teams you can pick from. Shit.
This is where it's going to be great for audio because
I'm gonna go with my guy, and already be different. I'm gonna say a Stupinian.
Oh, I was going to have him because I thought you two wouldn't. Angus, can you make a note of these because I'll forget.
I won't do it now, but I'll make a note of it afterwards.
Right, okay. Dan, who's your essential pick for this upcoming week?
I'm gonna go for. It's between 2. I'm gonna go Victor.
Who is your other one, and I'll go him.
No, because that will annoy me when it's right.
I'm not going. I can't choose a Watford player. I'm gonna go Akpom.
Oh, that wasn't who I was going to go Chair.
No, I'm going to go Akpom against Watford. Right, differential pick now. Right, let me get on the transfers. We're so professional, honestly. I do not know how the FL have not phoned us yet and offered us a contract.
I know. As long as mine don't get picked, I know what I'm going to pick.
Right, ownership, and it's below 5%. God, I've got to find some below 5% and actually play this week. Oh, I've got mine. Oh,
I
no,
know
it's 5.5, God.
Because I thought he looked exciting this week. I'm going to go with Mateus Martins from Watford.
Ooh, that's a shout.
That is a shout.
I'm going to go for Jamal Lowe.
Good one. Oh, I'm going to beat you on this one because it's written in the stars for this guy to hold this week. Sam Field gets the nod from me.
Is he not 5%?
4.8%. He's been in my team all season. It's finally time for me and him to rise together. And then the flop then, so that's going by total points, did you say? And no one on the first page of each position?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Angus is obviously going first.
Oh, I'm not going to go with the cheating answer.
Okay.
Because the cheating answer, I'm going to say this now because I don't think any of us should go with it. You can't say Isaiah Jones.
What?
Okay.
As flop of the week. That's cheating because
Oh no, I'm looking wrong. I'm not even looking at the first page. I've been on page 2. You
So I
can't
think
have Isaiah Jones.
no, Isaiah Jones is cheating.
Right, okay.
So I'm going to take the obvious answer.
I know who mine is. Go on then.
Ismail Assar.
Fuck.
I'm going to go for Estupinan.
Ooh, okay. Right. I'm going to go with Victor.
Okay, yeah.
To flop. Yeah. So we need to note these down.
Yeah.
Next week they'll be on screen here who we had and the points that they got, and then I'll update the standings each week as well. Sound good?
Yeah, I like how different people view it. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. Also, listeners, viewers, if you want to get involved as well, send us yours in. If there's any that are absolutely ridiculous and I find funny, I will definitely mention on the podcast. But I think that's a wrap then, isn't it, for this week?
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to cover before we say our goodbyes?
I'll tweet out something this week about the format for the second annual EFL Fantasy Cup.
Yes. Are we giving away a prize?
Yeah. As pictured in the tweet, there is a delightful mug from FPL merch.
21-22. So.
Yeah, you'll get a cup you'll get a mug that says 21-22 as well. We're just gonna keep giving people 21-22 winners.
Did the guy who won the... I can't even remember what competition we did for this prize shirt. Did he have it confirmed that he received the shirt?
Yes, he got it.
I was going to call him ungrateful for not even tweeting saying...
No,
thank you.
He got it.
Cost us a lot of money, that did. They were more expensive than I thought. Yes, and also the Gaffr Super League, which I run, I will put updates on that after game week 30, going into the last set. So who's in the promotion places, who's got a chance from going from non-league into the actual game, and also updates on the cash league, because that's getting quite interesting towards the top. If that's everything then, thank you very much for watching or listening, however you've done. Please like, subscribe and all that kind of jazz. Tell your dog about us, all that kind of stuff. And it is FA Cup weekend next weekend, but we've got obviously the 3 games. I am unfortunately going to be in Brussels, so I definitely won't be recording anything. I'm not sure what the plan is yet, but keep a check on the podcast Twitter page. You'll tweet something out with Angus if you're going to do something. But yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.